Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rebecca Keppel. In today's video, I'm sharing my top 10 favorite basic card making supplies and beyond. I love seeing what other crafters use for their basic supplies, and I've gotten a couple of questions about what I use. So I thought I should share my favorite basic supplies, including my favorite black ink. When I started to corral my favorite basic supplies for card making, I realized that a lot of them are from Gina K Designs. So today's video is another episode in my series, Support Small Card Making Businesses, and you can see the rest of the playlist up here. Before we jump right in, if you want to see more videos about card making supplies, whether they're basics or brand new must-haves, be sure to subscribe below and hit the bell. So let's get started with my number one favorite basic card making supply, which is something that every card maker needs, a really good black ink. Now, I used to have one black ink for sentiments, one black ink for stamping things that I was going to color with Copic markers, and one black ink for stamping things that I was going to color with watercolors. I don't know about you, but I don't want 3 different black inks. I just want one. It's important to me that the black ink that I use stamp really crisply and that it is a true black ink. That is why I love Gina K's Amalgam black ink in Obsidian. Let me show you why this is my absolute favorite black ink. This is the Gina K Amalgam ink in Obsidian. You can get it in the cube size or in the full-size ink pad, and the refill is also available. As soon as I had tried this ink, I knew I was going to grab the refill because it is that good. I haven't needed to refill my pad yet, but I want the ability to do so if I do need to. The ink pad is a felt ink pad which inks up stamps easily, and the amount of ink on the pad is juicy but not messy. I'm going to sound like Goldilocks here, but for those of you who have tried other black ink pads, you know what I mean. Some are way too dry and some are way too juicy and messy. I love the detail that you can get from this ink, but also the full coverage that you can get as well. Unlike a traditional dye ink, this ink stamps full coverage immediately and does not need to soak in. I'm going to stamp a poinsettia image on Hammermill 110-pound white cardstock to color with Copic markers. And I'm going to stamp the same image on Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor cardstock using the same Amalgam ink. I set both images aside to dry. This is not a pigment ink, so it does not take too long to dry, especially if you're just stamping a sentiment. But if you're going to be coloring with Copic colors soon after stamping, I would recommend heat setting this image. If you can wait, I like to let it dry for a few hours to prevent smearing. For the watercolor cardstock, I am using Tombow dual brush pens and water on a brush to blend out the colors. You can see that the ink holds up to the Tombows and the water as good as it did to the Copic alcohol markers. And if you're somebody who likes to do no-line coloring, Gina K has other amalgam inks in different colors that would be perfect for no-line coloring. Let me show you how easy it is to do a quick no-line coloring with this Whisper amalgam ink. I have a full-sized ink pad of Gina K's Whisper Amalgam ink, and I'm going to stamp that same poinsettia image that we used before on Whisper cardstock. I love that the lines of the stamped image are dark enough to see, but will blend into the surrounding area of the color of cardstock so that I can make them disappear with my coloring medium. I'm using POLYCHROMOS pencils, and I start with my darkest colors to cover the entire outlines of the stamped images. Then I add highlights with white, and finally I fill in the images by blending 2 colors together and often adding little bits of white back in for more highlights. Since this is an amalgam ink, you could also do this same technique with watercolors or Copic coloring. Just like a really great black ink, I love to have a brand of really great colored cardstock. One of the things I love about Gina K's colorful cardstock is that it is such a good quality. Even the mid-weight feels pretty heavyweight to me. I like to buy Gina K cardstock in the 8.5 by 11 packs so that I can decide if I want to cut them down to 4.25 by 5.5 or just cut them in half for die cutting. She does sell different smaller sizes as well. The heavyweight cardstocks are 110 pounds, and you can get an 8.5 by 11 pack of 10 for $3.95. The midweight packs are the same price, but they're just slightly less weight, so they're great for die cutting in an electronic die cut machine. Since these are not textured cardstocks, even detailed images are crisp and clear when stamped on them. Both weights of Gina K's cardstock die cut and layer beautifully. If you want to see how I keep track of all my Gina K colorful cardstocks, be sure to check out the video here to see how I create a swatch book of cardstock colors. Now that we've covered my favorite black ink and my favorite colorful cardstock, it's time to talk about colorful inks. And Gina K actually has a whole line of dye inks that are made exactly to match her cardstock, which is brilliant because you can do some really fun techniques. They come in both full-size pads and cube size. If you're curious about whether or not you'll really use a color, then try it in a cube size. Honestly, I've had some of these cubes for a long time. Here are some of my favorite colors of Gina K's dye inks. You can see I have an assortment of cubes and full-size pads. I haven't bought any refills of these yet because they're super juicy and they last a long time. I love having inks to match some of my favorite cardstock colors too, like Peach Bellini and Dusty Rose, because then you can easily create a really pretty tone-on-tone effect. The cubes are fine when stamping small images like this heart, but I do prefer the full-size pads when inking up a larger stamped image. This is another of my favorite Gina K colors, Sea Glass ink on Sea Glass cardstock. Remember that since these are dye inks, they sink into the paper and that image will smooth and even out as it dries. If it wasn't awesome enough that Gina K has cardstock and dye inks that match, she also has envelopes. Again, they are affordable, they are high quality, you can even stamp on them. They're just beautiful colors too. Let's take a look at Gina K's envelopes. Most of the Gina K envelopes come in packs of 10 A2 envelopes for $2.95. The specialty metallic ones are a couple of dollars more. When I get a new pack, I cut off the end of the packaging so I can store them like this, and the label at the bottom indicates what color it is. The color of cardstock exactly matches the envelope. This is another one of my favorites, Apple Mint. The newer color envelopes have the peel-off label adhesive, so there's no licking required. The paper is thick enough to withstand ink, so I love stamping them up with the same color of dye ink to coordinate with the card inside. Of course, you can't put a card together without some really great adhesive. Gina K collaborated with Thermoweb to create an entire line of great adhesives for paper crafters. First up is Gina K's Dot Roller Adhesive. I love how easy it is to change the cartridge and how this adhesive runner fits right in the palm of your hand. Plus, it lays down a consistent line of dots, and the adhesive is easily rubbed away with your finger if you get some in the wrong place. You can easily run this dot roller adhesive around a die cut, even fitting it into tight spaces, and it holds really well, but gives you some time to move things around first without tearing your paper. Next up are the foam squares, which are available in white and in black. There's also a foam tape in white and black as well. For a large die cut, it is easy to apply a few foam squares to the back for the perfect amount of dimension. I like how the squares come off of a strip from inside the box, so you can take out just the amount that you need at a time while the rest stay protected from dust. Gina K also has several widths of terrific tape, which is a thin strip of double-sided adhesive that can be torn. Check out this Shadowbox card video where I use the terrific tape to hold everything in place. There are a lot of stamp cleaners on the market, but I reach for Gina K's again and again for several reasons. First, I like that it's reusable and washable so that I'm not throwing out wipes all the time. Second, I like that it is gray or a darker color so that I don't see all of the ink, because you can still use it even when it is pretty dirty with ink, but I don't want to see that mess. But most importantly, although it is similar to a chamois, it does have this texture on it that makes it really great for getting inside the little nooks and crannies of a detailed stamp set. You can see that my tidy towel has been well loved. Simply dampen it when you're ready to use it and squeeze out the excess water, and then use it to clean off your stamps. Like I mentioned, the texture on this towel really helps to clean off even the most incredibly detailed stamp like this one. Next up on my list are Gina K's Crystalline Drops. You've probably seen in my other videos, I love using liquid drops to add dimension and color and shine to my cards. You may have even seen my review of Gina K's drops in my new must-have crafty finds, which I'll link to up here. I absolutely love the quality of these drops and how they round out so beautifully right out of the bottle. Let me show you what I mean. I have 3 colors of crystalline drops: Ruby Pearl, Ocean Pearl, and Black Diamond. These drops flow really easily out of the bottle without a lot of squeezing, and they come out smoothly. And the drops themselves round out without even needing to be tapped on the cardstock on the back. You can create both large and small drops, and they create a ton of dimension and shine. I love using them to accent my cards, draw attention to the focal image of my card or sentiment, and add hints of embellishing quickly and easily. As a card maker, it's so important to have that basic black ink, colorful cardstock, dye inks. I think one of the other most important things that I use time and time again is embossing powder. And I have tried a ton of embossing powders on the market, always looking for that perfect grain, because the finer the detail of embossing powder, the more detail you can get in your image. I especially love those fine detailed powders for sentiments. And I really love the unique color that Gina K created with her rose gold embossing powder. Let me show you how pretty Gina K's metallic embossing powders are. Gina K's embossing powders are $4.95 for a 1 ounce jar, and honestly, it's a ton of embossing powder. I'm not sure I'll even use it up anytime soon, and I love embossing. Several colors are available in the fine detail grain, but the rose gold is a traditional sized embossing powder. The color when heated is absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to try some of the other Gina K unique colors like Brass Band. The fine detail silver embossing powder makes it the perfect candidate for a sub-sentiment. With tiny letters like a sub-sentiment or any tiny image, it's best to have a fine detail embossing powder so that your image is crystal clear. The amazing quality of embossing powders when heat set never gets old for me. I love to use them all the time. Once you get into card making, it's hard not to start collecting lots of supplies. So you probably have a bunch of stamps and dies and stencils that you need to organize. So Gina K came out with a bunch of pockets that really help to protect your supplies. Specifically, I did not have really great pockets for stencils. So let me show you her stencil pockets and why I love them so much. Gina K's stencil pockets are 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 and come in packs of 10 for $4.50. I love these heavyweight pockets because the clear holders I was using before were thin and wrinkled easily and stuck to my stencils if they were a little sticky. These are sturdy, and the extra room means you can easily fit a 6x6 piece of cardstock and a stencil inside. Of course, all of Gina K's stencils fit easily in these pockets, but any company's 6x6 stencils will work just as well. And these pockets with stencils fit perfectly inside the large fridge bin that I use to organize my stencils. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this was mainly a basic card making supplies video, but I did say that there were some supplies that were a little bit basic and beyond. This next one, Gina K's Wreath Builder stencils, is definitely beyond, but it is so well worth adding to your stash. I just found out that there's a new version of the Wreath Builder template available on Gina K Designs, so I'll link to that one down below, but the concept is similar. I'm using a 4x4" piece of white cardstock and I place that inside the Wreath Builder. I'm using a die cut circle of Gina K masking magic to create a guide for the center of the wreath. I believe the newer templates make this an unnecessary step. I line up my heart stamp and pick it up with the MISTI and ink it up with Dusty Rose ink, and then I stamp it. Then I rotate the cardstock in the template and continue to stamp my heart around all of the corners. I reposition the heart stamp and I overlap it onto the Dusty Rose heart. And then I pick it up with the MISTI and ink it up, this time with Peach Bellini. Then I go through and rotate the cardstock, stamping the image every single time that I rotate, just like I did the first time. I do this whole process one more time with lemon drop ink, and that creates a pretty wreath of colorful hearts. Let me know in the comments below if I covered any of your favorite basic card making supplies today. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed seeing my favorite card making supplies. If you're interested in checking out anything I highlighted, all of the products will be linked down in the YouTube description below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime I have a brand new video available. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. As always, please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again on Saturday for a new must-have crafty supplies video.